Welcome back, WBZ 1030, Real Estate Radio Boston. Again, visit us at realestateradioboston.com. That's realestateradioboston.com, or give us a call at 8554-ASK-RICK with all of your real estate questions. Want to welcome in studio. We've got Ellen Shapiro and Frank Lombardi from Goodman, Shapiro and Lombardi. How are you guys?
We're great,
right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us back.
Absolutely.
Right.
Alan, tell us a little bit about Goodman, Shapiro and Lombardi. Obviously, we know who the firm is and who the partners are and where you guys practice, but give us a little recap.
Well, we represent about 800 condominium associations between Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We have an office in Dedham, Mass., as well as an office in Lincoln, Rhode Island. Frank heads up our Rhode Island office, and Henry Goodman and I head up our Massachusetts office. We focus on representation of condominium boards, which are the governing boards of the associations, and that's how we come to be familiar with many of the problems we discuss here and the things that we would like to see corrected so that we don't have problems. And an efficiently run association with a good board is a wonderful place for people to purchase. And
Absolutely.
That's what makes the difference.
Right.
So we try to provide advice to make sure that that's exactly what people get when they buy a condominium unit.
Wonderful. Now, one of the issues that we wanted to focus on was obviously we're dealing with an aging population.
Correct.
All over the states.
Right.
And there are certain challenges associated with dealing with aging populations when it comes to condos. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges you've seen and some of the solutions that perhaps we can offer to the listeners?
Well, this is one of the most troubling problems that we're facing in condominiums, as you know, and as you've alluded to. The condominiums, for some reason, attract people, and I'm going to be a little bit harsh here and say sometimes attract children of aging parents, in that the children will purchase the unit and, for want of a better phrase, will dump their parents there.
Wow.
Condominiums are not nursing homes. They are not assisted living facilities.
Right.
And there is some sort of misperception that if we put mom and dad in this condo, yes, their lawn will be cut. Yes, the snow will be plowed. All of those things will be taken care of, but not their medical and mental needs. And that is so important to understand, because our clients and the property managers who work for our clients are faced with terrible problems as a result. What do you do if mom is wandering the hall at night? What do you do if mom or dad locks themselves out of their unit and doesn't even know where their unit is? And of terribly grave consequences that we see, what if mom or dad falls asleep with the stove on, or wanders into another room and doesn't realize they've left the stove on? It becomes a safety issue for the entire building, not just to mom and dad.
Sure.
So at some point, people have to realize that, as their parents start forgetting things. I think people need to understand that you have to take that next step. Maybe having someone come in, maybe not necessarily leave them out of, but maybe 24-hour care or, care inside the condo unit. But when they get to a certain point, they need that next step and they need that assisted living.
Right, too. And I tell people all the time, if you're going to have your parents there, develop a network of people that are in and around the community, also relatives, friends in that area, so that if the children do in fact move away, okay, there's a support system there for them, so they don't have to rely on the condominium infrastructure itself.
Now, Frank, what is a board to do? So what are some of the things, some of the tools that's available to boards and management companies in order to really manage these types of issues?
Well, from a management point of view, you want telephone numbers, you want contact information. So if there's an issue there, you want people that can knock on the door like the second or third day if you haven't heard from them or seen them in the area, the common areas, whatever. Also, sometimes we're dealing with the possibility of establishing guardianships or powers of attorney.
Gotcha.
Okay. We've got a case now in Rhode Island where the mother has got severe dementia. The kids don't want to deal with it at all. So we're going into court, a probate court in Rhode Island, to establish a guardianship. We're not sure what's going to happen, but we're going to establish some sort of standing. Why? Because, as Ellen had suggested, that she's dangerous to herself. And when you're in a condominium, you're living with a lot of people.
Right.
So any mistakes that are made in that unit could go into other units.
Well, Frank, I'm curious, who is initiating that motion?
We are, as the association.
Right. So the association obviously is seeing these problems of people wandering around or getting themselves locked out and not knowing where the unit is or leaving the stove on, God forbid. And obviously that's it. So emergency contacts and getting some sort of a guardianship or power of attorney. Correct, Ellen?
Well, yes and no. The law does not really provide a mechanism for the association to get the guardianship. It's an extraordinary remedy. And there are some procedural steps that it's very hard for the association to meet. So we are hoping that probate court, which is a family-oriented court where the judges have extraordinary powers called equity powers, which we don't want to get into right now, but that they will see this problem and help to craft a remedy where, truthfully, one does not exist at this point in time. And the really sad part is what Frank alludes to. The kids, and I will say the kids, the adult children, who do not want to be bothered anymore. That is so tragic. And the association is left with very, very few options. We've had cases where the manager has called a family member and the family member has literally hung up and said, if you call me again and you bother me again, I'm going to have my lawyer call you.
It's a new term in the legal lexicon now called warehousing. It's an unfortunate term.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow, so it's a systemic problem, obviously.
Right.
So if you're a board out there, or you're an association out there, or you're a management company out there in charge of a condo association, you really ought to reach out to Goodman, Shapiro, and Lombardi.
Right.
Go on to realestateradioboston.com. Their contact information is out there, and they can certainly guide you through these types of challenges and be able to tell you what are some of the systems procedurally that you have to be able to put into place in order to manage these types of issues, because that's massive amount of liability for a board. For an association.
Not to interrupt you, but I just
No,
did.
it's okay.
I'm
used to it.
That's true.
That's never stopped them before.
If it's not Gina, it's me.
Exactly.
The worst thing for an association to do is to do nothing. To fail to take any action is the worst possible position for them to be in.
Let's talk about that. What if an association doesn't do anything? What happens then?
There could be, and I use the word could, some sort of liability if a fire breaks out and people are injured or the building burns down or a death ensues, because someone is going to say, wait a minute, board, you knew about this. Why did you sit back and just let this continue? You knew there was a dangerous condition in your association, a person who wasn't competent, who was having problems with controlling their utilities, their stove, what have you, and you did nothing.
Well, I wonder if they even know that there is an option that they can. I mean, that they can go into court and do something like that.
Well, that's what Ellen talked about is the exposure that the association faces. That's the argument we're going to present to the probate court. Is that gives us standing. We're not saying we're going to be the guardians. We're saying get the government involved. Get the judge to appoint an independent guardian ad litem for that person.
Based on your experience, do you think that most associations, boards, or management companies have policies and procedures when it comes to these types of issues?
I think this is such a developing problem and such a rapidly developing problem that they have not had the opportunity to sit down and discuss it. It's almost more reactive. A situation comes up, what should we do? And I think the point you make is an excellent one. Develop policies and procedures in advance so that everybody is aware who does what, who goes to where. And we also have to understand that many communities have councils on aging, and that's a tremendous resource. And I know many property managers who have established close working relationships with these councils, and that's a great resource, but many communities don't have them.
You know, and you guys can sort of help them create these policies and procedures.
Absolutely.
So if they don't have these in place, I mean, it's definitely necessary. So again, if you're a management company out there or live in a condo association, I would absolutely give you guys a call.
Frank, you're talking about warehousing. We're running out of time in this segment, but you're talking about warehousing. Are there procedures available to be able to essentially get rid of this condo owner that's exposing the association to tremendous amount of liability?
That's the problem. We've got it's the strong Anglo-Saxon the bent or bias towards fee ownership. You can't take away. A man or woman's home is his castle or her castle, but you can't take it away. So we've got to deal with that ingrained position in the law right now, and that's why we need standing to actually take that away from them.
Excellent.
Can I just say one thing? I know we're running out of time. Okay, keep in mind that we're not looking to divest them of ownership.
Understood.
We're looking to get them out of the unit. They can still own it.
Ellen, how do they reach you?
They can call at 877-241-1600 or go on the web at www.goshlaw.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Ellen.